pleasure to just introduce you to the class of 2019 and tell you a little bit about them. Today we celebrate our 52nd graduation ceremony. We're honoring 823 graduates of Lake Area Tech. 166 represent communities from 10 states outside of South Dakota. The other 657 come from 57 of the 66 counties in South Dakota and 182 communities. As graduates, you will join a long line of over 20,000 Lake Area Tech alumni. Your heritage includes your faculty and large numbers of faculties and staff, but also several captains of industry, including the founder of Boss Hoss Motorcycles, a local surgeon, and even one of the lost boys of the Sudan. Today, 1 in 10 residents in Cottington County is a Lake Area Tech grad. Even though 75% of you were employed while you were here, 33% of you worked more than 20 hours per week. This class was our first class in history to complete over 100,000 hours of community service and service learning this year, and they certainly deserve a round of applause for that. 31 of you are veterans. If the veterans could just, in the graduating class, could stand briefly. First class in history to complete over 100,000. Thank you for your service. College is not easy. Nationally, only 22% of those that start in a community college graduate within 3 years. But your class, Lake Area Tech class of 2019, your graduation rate is 3 times that. You have truly excelled in whatever you have done. You have persevered through one of the toughest portions of life's journey, and you've earned our admiration. But you didn't do it alone. Grads, thank you for your service. The audience. Find your family and friends. College is not easy. Nationally, only 22% of those that start in a community college graduate within 3 years. But your class, Lake Area Tech class of 2019. No other college is embraced by the community like Lake Area Tech. You have truly generosity and caring of industry in whatever you have done. This community, you have persevered through one of the toughest portions of life's journey, and you've earned more than $793,000. Further, we awarded $1.2 million in Build Dakota scholarships to another 122 students last fall. And industry provided over $1 million in Stretch the Million funds to make those full ride scholarships. This means that this community provided over $3 million that they invested in you because they believe in this class and they believe what you can do for South Dakota. So congratulations. Your list of big supporters also includes each and every member of Lake Area Tech, past and present. Lake Area Tech strives to do our best, and we focus on our mission, and our mission is you, the students. I would like the Lake Area Tech leadership and employees, and I know you've already done this, but if you'd please rise, and I'd like to recognize the faculty and staff and everybody past and present that works at Lake Area Tech. If you would. Some quick statistics. After today, 99% of the graduating class will be employed and continuing their education. And according to the Aspen Institute, Lake Area Tech grads will earn 27% more than other new starts in the area. With your average salary will eclipse the state's median income just 5 years after you graduate. And we are so proud that on average, more than 86% of you will stay in South Dakota. My advice to this class is the same as when you came here. My recommendation is be around people that you care about and care about the people that are around you. Do something you care about, but more importantly, be someone that you care about. As you've heard, college is a destination. College is not a destination, it's a pathway. And after today, you'll walk that path with a new title that no one can ever take away. And that title is college graduate. Congratulations. It is my privilege to introduce our commencement speaker. Just 100 days into office, Governor Noem list of accomplishments is already sizable. She signed 222 bills into law, met with hundreds of South Dakotans, and hit all four corners of the state to listen to people's priorities. She finished the legislative session with a balanced budget, addressed critical needs in our state, and made real progress on the next generation issues like combating meth, expanding high-speed internet, and recruiting the next big industry in South Dakota. The budget not only funded these priorities, but also provided additional funding to things like increased teacher salaries, increasing the state emergency response budget, and the continued support for our state's workforce, all key issues for Lake Area Tech. She's doing all this while leading the response to two storms that have caused extreme difficulties for many of South Dakotans. Governor Noem is raised here, and Governor Noem and her husband, Brian, and their children, Cassidy, Kennedy, and Booker, call this area home. We are proud to have Governor Kristi Noem as your commencement speaker. Please welcome Governor Noem to the stage.
Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's a little warm out there. It must be. I see a lot of white sheets waving. But listen, I am so proud to be here. What an honor for me to be chosen to be your commencement speaker. And I was thinking about what I would say for all of you today, and I could give a long speech about what a fantastic technical school you all have chosen to attend. But I probably won't do that because you know that. You made a wise decision coming to Lake Area Tech. My mother graduated from Lake Area Tech, so this is definitely a place that our family believes in and something that we think is going to give you a great start on life. You didn't just choose a job. What you did by coming here and letting these fantastic instructors pour into your life is that you've chosen an industry. You've chosen a career, and from here, you will be employed for the rest of your life in a job that's rewarding, that you have unique skills for, that will be incredibly helpful to provide for your family. My goal, my wish every day when I get up is that all of you would stay. I think President Cartney said 86% will stay. I'm hoping you guys will break that record. I'd love it if 100% of you would stay. When I talked in my State of the State address after being sworn in as governor, I talked about the next generation. Talked about that I didn't want people my age to be thinking about what we can do for ourselves. What can we do to make South Dakota better for our kids and for our grandkids? And so that's my focus, and that's you. Every day we should wake up ready to make sure that you have an industry you can spend your time in that helps you provide for your families, gives you a better wage, make sure you can raise them here close to your families and be successful and go after every single dream that you have. So even all those bills that came during the legislative session, there was over 600 of them. My staff does an analysis on them. They say, what would happen if this bill was signed into law? What would happen if it's not signed into law? And the last question that every staff member has to answer before we decide how we're going to proceed on that legislation, the last question is, what does this bill mean for the next generation? So just know that your leadership in this state every day debates and talks about every policy through the viewpoint of what's it going to do to impact your future. And that's really my heart and my goal each and every day. You know, I wanted to stand here and give you a speech that would be inspirational, that would change your lives forever, and got a lot of suggestions about talking about Abraham Lincoln or Steve Jobs or people that were very, very powerful and accomplished a lot in their lives. But I was thinking about the fact that there's a lot of things in my life that I wish I would have known years ago. I know some of you in this class may be a little bit closer to my age than others, but most of you are a good 20 to 25 to maybe more years younger than me. So but I remember years ago there was quite a few things that I wish people would have shared with me or that I would have learned earlier in life. So I thought I'd just cut this down to 10 things that I wish I would have known years ago. Does that sound like a good enough commencement speech for all of you today? Is that okay? All right, let's get started. Number 10, that you need to say yes. Now, some of you have probably heard me say this before, But in this day and age, don't you have a lot of people that come up to you and say, you gotta say no to some stuff, you're so busy, you can't commit to anything? I'm gonna do the exact opposite and encourage you to say yes to things in your life. Now, the grades that you accomplished while you were here, how you worked, your tests, how you did and performed, was incredibly important, but really what's gonna change your life and give you more opportunities in your life is the connections that you make with people, the relationships that you make. When you try new things that you maybe wouldn't have signed up for and take that opportunity, you may meet someone while you're doing that that will change your life forever. You may learn that you have a gift or a talent or a skill that you didn't know that you had before. Now, when I went to high school, when I graduated from high school, I wanted to be a farmer and a rancher. My dad said I needed to go on and get more education, so then I thought, well, maybe I'll be a teacher. And then I thought for a little while, maybe I'll be a pharmacist. And then I hit organic chemistry and realized I was never going to be a pharmacist, because that was the hardest thing I'd ever tackled in my life. And then things dramatically changed for me, and I ended up coming home, running our farm and ranch, hunting lodge, restaurant, had a totally different change in life. But the one thing that I look back on is the instances where I said yes to new opportunities, where I showed up at a meeting because somebody invited me and I met somebody there that gave me another opportunity, or I joined a club or participated in an organization that gave me another opportunity to make a connection that helped me later on in life. You may be sitting here thinking you have your life planned out. I'm going to encourage you, somebody's going to come up and ask you to do something, and I'm going to encourage you just to say yes and try it. You don't have to do it forever. You can try it for a couple months. But you might meet somebody there or find that you have a gift or a talent to do something that you didn't know that you have today. Now, this is going to come with a disclaimer, because my family will tell you that I have a sickness where I say yes to everything. So people will ask me to do things. Like, for instance, a couple years ago, I think everybody knows that I can't swim and that I'm cold all the time. Anybody who knows me knows I'm always cold. So I got invited to come jump in Lake Kempesca in like February for the polar plunge. And I said, sure, I'll do that. And then my family heard about it and they're like, what would make you think that you should do that you're gonna jump in a lake in the middle of the winter time and you can't swim? And then there was a special needs girl that really wanted to jump with me. And then I said, well, she can jump with me. And they were like, you're having somebody's life depending on you. You need to make better decisions. You can't say yes to everything. So we did take someone else with us to make sure we both lived through the whole ordeal. But I will encourage you all to make sure that when you say yes, that you do use a little wisdom and discernment as well, because that will come in handy throughout your life. Number 9, whatever you post is permanent. I'm talking a little bit about social media. How many of you out there, students, you have to participate? How many of you have posted something on social media you kind of wish you hadn't? Am I the only one? Everything you've ever posted, you're very proud of. Good for you guys. Bunch of rock stars, look at that. Well, then I'm preaching to the choir here. But here's one thing you maybe don't know, is that every single employer you'll ever have will check all of your social media. Every single job, every single person that wants to do business with you or work with you or your family, or if you're going to get into education or if you might be their nurse, they will probably find you on social media and make a decision on you going forward. I didn't realize until I became governor, every single state agency and everybody uses their social media accounts as part of their background check that they do on everyone. So just remember number 9, everything you post is permanent. It will always be there. Number 8, admit when you are wrong. When you are wrong and admit it, people will respect you more than if you were always right. And this happens to me a lot. Just the other day, I had one of my staffers, I said, I'm going into a meeting and I still don't have the memo with all the information that I need. And she said, I sent it to you last night at 10:30. I said, no, you didn't. I went through my email box 3 times. I don't have it. And guess what? I went through my email box the 4th time and I found it. And I went back to her and said, you're right. I'm sorry. I was wrong. But it's so much better, and you will be respected more, that when you do say something or you do something that's wrong, just admit it, and people will respect you for being able to do that. Number 7, just shut the gate. How many of you guys have ever grown up or worked around livestock? Cattle or horses? Come on, raise your hands tall. We got to participate. So just shut the gate means that if this happens to me a lot, it happened a lot growing up and still as an adult, but when you are going to go out and go feed the cattle or horses are the worst, you think you can get that hay bale out to the feeder and get back and don't have to get out and shut the gate, right? You have enough time to open the gate, drive through, go out and put the hay bale in and feed them, or empty the feeder wagon, and you don't have to shut the gate. But what happens? You run out, or you as soon as you get out there, every head comes up, right? They hear the tractor. Horses are the worst. They immediately look for the gate and will take off for the gate. And what that means is just shut the gate. Go through the gate, shut it. It's the little things in life that will make all the difference in the world. The little things that you do, the extra step that you take to do things right will save you a lot of heartache. I have spent many, many hours chasing horses across the road or chasing cattle through the yard when I could have just shut the gate and avoided all that hard work. Number 6 is let it go. I had a pastor several years ago give a sermon about offenses, that people are going to throw out offenses all the time at you. Throughout your life, no matter who you are, people will say or do things that will offend you. But he also said that as you're walking through life and people throw an offense out, that you're the one who decides if you're going to bend over and pick it up. That you're the one who decides you're going to pick it up and carry it around with you everywhere you go. He said, and then if you keep doing that, you're the one walking around with the burden in your arms. So he said, just let it go. Walk right past it and don't pick it up. And the one thing that I've learned about letting it go is that we really don't have any kind of an idea what people are going through in their lives. Most of the time, if people have been short with you, they've had a temper, something's happened in their life that they're going through that we don't really know. And if we can give them a little grace and understanding, then we don't need to pick up that offense and give them a better shot at it the next day. Number 5, people will judge you by how you make them feel. A lot of times we feel like in this superficial world, people will look at us based on what we look like, we dress like, they're judging us, how we talk, how we stand. But most of the time, when people spend more than 5 or 10 minutes with you, they're going to judge you by how you made them feel. Did you make them feel comfortable? Did you make them feel like you were friendly, genuine? Somebody described it to me one time. They were talking to someone who constantly was talking badly about other people, and he said, when I talk to that individual, I feel like I just got thrown up on. Now, isn't that a horrible feeling? Can you imagine if that happened to you? It would be horrible, right? But he said, when I talk to that person, that's how I feel. I don't ever want to make people feel like that. I spent the day yesterday down at the Rosebud Sioux Tribe with a lot of their tribal members, and then also in a couple of their schools with the children and things. And one of the schools that I walked into just felt different. It was like a family. Everybody there was hugging each other, they loved each other, they were watching out for each other. Some of the kids that went there had gone through a lot of trauma. I will always remember how that school felt. And just remember that that is your biggest impression you can leave on people, is how you make them feel. Now, number 4 kind of ties into this, because it's don't complain. And the sentence that I would tie to that is just that it is a waste of time. You either do something about what you're complaining about, or if you can't, just be quiet. Number 3, struggle is good. I remember growing up with my dad, I felt like many times he gave us impossible things to do. So many times he would give us a job and I would be like, there's no way I can ever do that. I will probably die if I try to do this. One time he sent me and my brother Rob out to get a cow in that had just calved. And the cow had a little bit of a fever, didn't like her calf, and he told us to go put her in the barn and make her suck. Well, I was probably only 12 or 13 years old. My brother was 4 years younger than me, so he was 8 or 9 years old, and we get over to the barn and we go to get her out of the corral and put her in the barn, and she immediately chases us right back up over the corral fence. So we think, okay, we got to have a little strategy here. So of course I send the younger brother in first. and say, have her chase him, then I try to grab the calf, and we try and try, but she just keeps chasing us back up over the corral fence. But we know we can't go back to the shop and tell Dad we didn't get the cow in and make the calf suck. So we tried all morning to do this. Finally, we gave up. I said, we got to go tell Dad. So we walk back over to the shop, and we tell him we can't get the cow in the barn. She's mean. She keeps chasing it. And he said, you get back over to that barn, and you make that calf suck right now. So we take off back over to the barn, and we try again for another hour of her chasing us around and us trying to open the barn door, lead her in somehow, just all kinds of crazy stuff. Get the four-wheeler in there. I think at that time it was a three-wheeler. That really does date me. But finally we go back to Dad, and I said, I'm sorry, we can't get her in. And he is angry. He is mad. He pulls on your rubber overshoes because it just rained, pulls them onto his cowboy boots. He doesn't buckle them. He heads over to the barn, and we're running behind him because we can tell he's upset with us. He crawls over the fence into the corral with him, starts to walk towards the cow, and immediately she charges him and comes right at him, and he puts her in a headlock. And as she's running around the corral, he's got her in a headlock, and he's punching her in the nose, going, you stupid cow, go in the barn. And Rob and I are sitting on the fence thinking he's lost his mind. He's absolutely lost his mind. Then all of a sudden, she gets him down, she kneels on his chest, and she starts to rub her head all over his face and rub him into the dirt. And so then we figured we should probably do something now, and we get into the corral, and we go running over there, and she gets up off of him and chases us back up on the fence. And Dad comes over to the fence, and he brushes himself off, and he says, well, I had her right where I wanted her till I tripped on my overshoes. And we said, yeah, you did. Yeah. But so many times he gave us challenges, whatever it was that we thought we couldn't do as kids. But struggle is good, because when I think back to all those things he had us do, whether it was driving semis or tractors or chasing cows or whatever the job was, that's how we learned to be problem solvers. That's how we learned to have confidence. When we did something and completed it that we didn't think we had the ability to do, that's when we really started to gain confidence and know we could tackle some big challenges. So when you go forward in life and you're going through something hard, just know that struggle is good, that it's a good thing, that it's something that instead of saying, I can't take it anymore, I want your attitude to say, bring it on. Bring it on. I can handle this. Struggle is good because it's teaching me to have perseverance and to accomplish big challenges in front of us. Number 2, spend time with the people that you love. And that's going to be your family, who's all here today, and your best friends. Most people in your life are just going to be visitors, but the people who will always be around, who are going to be permanent fixtures in your life, will be your family. And if you don't have a family, go make one. Go create a family. You can do that. But get your family and your best friends and keep them and spend time with those that you love. And the last thing that I would say to all of you today is lead the way. Lead the way for all of us. If you ever find yourself sitting around in a situation where everybody is looking around, not knowing what to do and needing a leader, well, that's the time that you lead. That's the time that you lead. You become a leader when you decide to become a leader. There's not an invitation you're going to get the mail. People aren't going to ask you. Being a leader is a decision. And our world is in desperate need of leaders. People who will step up and provide guidance, consistency, a foundation when we see so many challenges coming our way. That's what's so outstanding about this school. That's what's so outstanding about South Dakota, is that we've got people who know how to tackle problems, who know how to go through challenges, be successful, and will step up and lead when we need it. So all of you here today, you're our leaders. I hope that each one of you will decide to step into that role and do that for the sake of our state and for our country, and I am just so very proud of you. So God bless you, and God bless the great state of South Dakota. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. The class of 2019 wanted to present you with a gift, and it's a crystal globe, one of the hallmarks of Lake Erie Tech, but it says, "Thank you for inspiring us, Lake Erie Tech class of 2019." So thank you very much.
That's great, thank you. Thank you.
At this time, it is my honor to present to you our graduates. Starting with the graduates of our agriculture program. Skylar Amrine. Faith Asplin. Becca Bauman. Jamie Bagalka. Levi Berge. Dawson Blum. Kyla Brandenberger. Morgan Brown. Trevor Brueggemann. Desiree Burgraff. Levi Burgraff. Elizabeth Clyde. Jacob Kuhn. Ross Criddle. Josh Currens. Logan Dale. Mitchell Dale. Austin DeVlamick. Gabrielle Dodd. Taylor Doyle. James Erickson. Kyle Erickson. Lucas Erickson. Ryan Falk. Sadie Faster. Kendra Fee. Alex Pladmark. Jasmine Foster. Kyle Fredrickson. Dylan Gerberding. Jacob Gross. Alyssa Gunderson. Allison Hassert. Brittany Hazel. Allison Helgett. Jacob Helland. Tyler Holman. Faith Hodeling. Keaton Hoyer. Benjamin Hughes. Mason Hutt. Justin Jensen. Jacob Johnson. Dylan Jones. Cole Kannegizer. Cameron Keeman. Carson Kirby. Brittany Knudsen. Benjamin Cole. Hope Larson. Jeffrey Malsum. Courtney Mason. Zachary McQuistion. Emily Mendel. Cullen Moyer. Taylor Murray. Taylor Pay. Jordan Payer. Brady Petrick. Cody Powell. Mariah Sage. Lincoln Schanzenbach. Logan Schauneman. Rachel Schlechter. Carter Schwader. Shane Simon. Jacob Stinson. Tanner Storer. Brett Steuven. Megan Thompson. Zachary Vandervorst. Colin Van Diepen. Everett Van Heck. Caleb Van Sickle. Kristen Vogel. Amber Weber. Ashley Weber. Ty Wary. Ty Whitlinger. Carson Wiley. Cheyenne Zimmerman. Graduates of our Automotive Technology program, Hayden Anderson. Preston Barth. Brandon Blinder. JC Carter. John Erickson. Cody Fairchild. Anthony Gorno. Shannon Lufkins. Logan Matchtimus. Dakota Pearson. Daniel Randall. Samuel Rushmeyer. Nicholas Schmidt. Joseph Scholberg. Adam Somnus. Nathan Telkamp. Blaine Thomas. Jacob Weinberg. Jack Whaley. Kyle Wolford. Waleed Ali. Start of our aviation maintenance graduates. Junso Choi. Nicholas Christensen. Mark Matlack. Trevor Parmalee. Trevor Harris. Aaron Wheeldryer. Start of our building trades graduates, Glenn Amar. Aurora Carnes. Connor Deutsch. Philip Gilliland. Dylan Hines. Sheldon Mack. Brandy Melius. Tyler Pop. Jacob Roiger. Tucker Roselle. Tate Shape. Mason Sheik. Benjamin Sukup. Cole Solik. Remington Wyland. Ryan Zerfas. Graduates from our Business Associate Program, Caitlin Bach. Jessica Bergholtz. Shauna Conrad. Dolan Culligan. Sarah DeYager. Connor Farr. Peyton Fisher. Jacob Geiger. Hayden Gilbertson. Natasha Gortmaker. Karen Hanton. Karen, excuse me. Laura Heater. Alasia Johnson. Alexander Jorgensen. Darren Knobloch. Samantha Kuchek. Ashley McCulloch. Miriam Reppy. Kayla Runge. Brittany Schaefer. Lindsay Schwinger. Willow Sire. Allison Stodham. Brendan Steele. Graduates from our Computer Information Program, Saren Arts. Shane Bratland. Sherry Dalkey. Colton Hodgkiss. Ryan Lindner. Tate Longville. Rami Madani. Joseph Holzine. Joshua Ramsey. Amanda Ristow. Chance Sale. Benjamin Wagner. Graduates from our cosmetology program, Keisha Arthurs. Chelsea Bacchus. Ryan Ganji. Haley Hauger. Jenny Johnson. Jenna Johnsrud. Mercedes Leckleiter. Andrea Ramirez. Cassidy Strike. Alexis Thompson. Bailey Verrier. Graduates from our custom paint and fabrication program, Damon Ayersman. Andrew Crocker. Jay Foster. Casey Fox. Caden Harford. Jacob Hyde. Ryan Nicholson. Christopher Ragsdale. Ty Schaefers. Logan Smith. Zachary Stevens. Lane Stromsness. Andrew Weiss. Graduates from our dental assisting program, Sydney Austin. Kaylin Eichly. Allison Baumiller. Carly Beckman. Amber Bellica. Brooklyn Benson. Michaela Bork. Alyssa Borns. Lena Bruins. Kaylee Cleveland. Kayla Cox. Mara Dobrensky. Tiffany Heyman. Taylor Hart. Amanda Haugen. Kristen Jensted. Brooke Latu. Heather Lone. Miranda Madsen. Mackenzie Myers. Alexa Schaefbauer. Madison Schmidt. Mackenzie Severson. Elizabeth Stolp. Thin Thin. Tarina Tito. Ashley Van Wettering. Carly Van Koolen. Holly Williams. Graduates from our Diesel Technology program, Isaac Angerin. Tanner Anglin. David Bali. Devin Carroll. Colby Collier. Braden Craig. Rocky Curtis. Joshua Dannon. Drake Davis. Zachary Davis. Christian DeLange. Spencer Earl. Wyatt Fredrickson. Mason Gibson. Mark Hartzell. Caleb Hazelhorst. Brady Hauge. Zachary Hespy. Tyler Hines. Seth Humala. Anthony Yeager. Austin Job. Benjamin Johnson. Kyler Johnson. Sterling Johnson. Trent Johnson. Miles Catevold. Nicholas Klein. Rio Knox. Bailey Lysinger. Jared Luthold. Lucas Mace. Evan Maurer. Samuel McLaughlin. Blake Meyer. Joseph Tolley. Denver Paul. Trevor Prey. Jonathan Ransom. Nicholas Ratzlaff. Alex Riley. Logan Ronnie. John Rosenhammer. Alec Roskins. Zachary Roth. Trenton Roos. Brant Rushi. Garrett Solonen. Jesse Sawvell. Lucas Schwader. Dallas Sees. Marcus Simonson. Chance Stewie. Tyler Sumner. Jordan Thiele. Riley Timmerman. Ryan Townsend. Isaac Troutman. Jacob Faith. Nathaniel Vanderweerd. Bailey Volker. Graduates of our Electronic Systems program, Haley Aldrin. Chance Burke. Shahab Delfanarze. Michelle Mastel. Graduates of our robotics program, Alex Blinder. Austin Burmeister. Kyron Toluca. Mercedes Christensen. Braden Davis. Christopher Dudenhofer. Jackson Fink. Jacoby Hughes. Travis Hoonke. Jonathan Kopp. Scott Little. Philip Madsen. Brian Martins. Kurt Meyer. Tristan McKay. Andrew Mears. Trevor Rauscher. William Truett Roberts. Caleb Seehopper. Riley Twee. Cameron Wendling. Graduates of our Energy Operations Program, Levi Johnson. Mason Wickhurst. Graduates of our Energy Technology Program, Jake Brower. Sean Coyle. Blake Ingebretson. Kaylin Hacker. Evan Hagan. Stephen Heath. Cameron Millard. Levi Schmall. Graduates of our Environmental Technology Program, Lisa Anderson. Skylar Bender. Amber Davis. Kaylee Henjum. Abby Lighty. Graduates of our Financial Services Program, Cassie Buholtz. Morgan Buskole. Taya Eachin. Taya Heisinger. Taya. Ashley Helgett. Ashley Jensen. Brianna Jurens. Jessica Knudsen. Natalie Kolda. Krislin Norgard. Madison Page. Kendra Prokop. Teresa Schaefer. Stacy Schumacher. Rachel Seidel. Cassandra Sell. Molly Watt. Nicholas Wiley. Graduates of our heavy equipment program, Tanner Eggert. Kaya Flizrand. Donovan Greiner. Tyler Gruis. Jared Jose. Jose. My bad. I did apologize to the students this morning about butchering their names. Bryce Olson. Skylar Roberts. Theron Anderson, graduates of our High Performance Engine Machine program. Ryan Brunick. Connor Hamilton. Dawson Petrick. Matthew Phillips. Graduates of our Human Services Technician program, Sarah Beals. Shaylin Becker. Brianna Brockle. Cassandra Dahl. Maricela Espinoza. Ingrid Gonzalez. Tiffany Hyder. Dallas Henricks. Krista Hofer. Christiane Keno. Danielle Lewis. JC Moe. Kaylee Newell. Derek Olson. Remy Paul. Mikaelin Pershing. Leisha Peterson. Sarah Pittman. Devin Randall. Casey Schluter. Mackenzie Schwanke. Michaela Fine. Hope Tengi. Serifia Vick. Graduates of our law enforcement program, Zachary Angerhofer. Lacey Bick. Brighton Black. Tyler Bogue. Dylan Bollinger. Wesley Bauscher. Danita Dahl. Braxton Farman. Brandon Fisher. Sabrina Gaikowski. Alex Hansen. Nicholas Laidlaw. Joshua Lee. Jacob Millette. Taylor Shantz. Jonathan Sheehan. Racelyn Cheddar. John Waldner. Caden Wolschlager. Graduates of our Med Fire Rescue Program, Eric Eversman. Alex Garvin. Michael Greenman. Ty Murray. Cole Palmer. Austin Schmidt. Graduates of our Medical Assisting Program, Brittany Crocker. Angelique German. Sarah Haugen. Madison Hilbrands. Michaela Jensen. Taylor Core. Anastasia Little. Devin Livermont. Amanda Lewinsky. Taylor Mack. Megan Martell. Carly Muchmore. Kaylee Nickel. Graduates of our Medical Lab Tech Program, Alicia Baus. Madison Flory. Luzianne Heinrichs. Brandon Ivy. Eler Closo. Sydney Norton. Graduates of our Occupational Therapy Assistant Program, Gavin Benz. Megan Bradley. Ashley Brew. Kelsey Clausen. Catherine Heinrich. Heather Hyde. Paige Jorgensen. Alyssa Kodal. Mariana McCullough. Madison Pudwell. Quinn Riley. Timothy Rickert. Kaylee Ritter. Christina Zachary. Ashley Schultz. Molly Benurden. Kristen Waylert. Graduates of our Physical Therapist Assistant Program, Keisha Blomgren. Brianna Burchell. Anne DeSmit. Raylan Enstead. Katie Erickson. Mercedes Gensler. Elizabeth Hennon. Natalie Harrigan. Marquis Lucian. Shelby Luke. Shelby Ness. Alexis Oakes. Natalie Selner. Grace Stein. Lexi Whitley. Graduates of our Practical Nursing Program, Maria Barker. Brittany Bauer. Brooke Bauer. Courtney Bauman. Heidi Bretsch. April Klein. Jasmine Dargitz. Alyssa Day. Alisa Day. Thank you. Paige Feeblecorn. Alexis Folk. Dawn Grant. Alexandra Gustafson. Naeli Heyman. Taylor Hyatt. Chelsea Koloff. Vicky Campa. Danielle Kasuski. Kylie Caven. Jennifer Kerner. Samantha Kritzek. Dana Kelbs. Corin Newcomb. Madeline Paitzer. Paige Rogie. Reagan Scone. Hope Seats. Michael Skoranek. Grace Wolf. Graduates of our Precision Machining program, Connor Antone. Chance Bonin. Seth Davis. Ethan Duman. Aaron Fox. Elijah Huber. Hunter Karpinski. Spencer Morotz. Chance Odegaard. Kyle Schmidt. Aaron Sowers. Lance Stickelstead. Austin Taman. Nathan Thone. Sawyer Bogey. Wade Wagaman. Corey Walter. Graduates of our registered nursing program, Kayla Adler. Ethan Comas. Kimberly Eide. Sierra George. Tasha Hinker. Shayla Malsum. Brittany Merritt. Danielle Nealon. Holly Peterson. Andrea Ramsey. Lexi Reichling. Sarah Schlott. Brianna Smith. Mercedes Snell. Laura Stahl. Darcy Stoll. Melissa Street. Cassidy Tacroni. Callie Wheelberg. Callie, excuse me. Bridget White. Graduates of our welding technology program, Anthony Barker. Riley Bloom. Brandy Boardman. Kobe Bruns. Brandon Cole. Mike Curtis. Buffalo DeMars. Nicole Fay. Maxwell Cravel. Ruben Garcia. Taylor Hansen. Johnson. Parker Kunkel. Eric Moore. Jake Ryan. Jordan Schimmel. Brandon Schmidt. Christopher Sievertson. Damian Smith. Lane Smith. Hua Sui. Matthew Stanley. Salvador Talamantes. Graydon Thompson. Curtis Traversey. Clint Vandervliet. Aaron James Whited. Excuse me. Cade Weidrich. Michaela Wilson. So Win. Donald Walter. At this time, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you Shauna Conrad, who is our Alumni Association President, to share a few words with you.
Wow, we earned this. Hello, fellow 2019 graduating classmates of Lake Area Tech. My name is Shauna Conrad, and I stand here today as not only a 2019 graduate, but also the Lake Area Tech Alumni President. Now, you might be wondering how I'm a graduate and already on the alumni board. Let's just put it this way. I like this place so much, 1 degree just wasn't enough. The journey to standing here today began back in 2013. When I first stepped foot on the Lake Area Tech campus, it immediately felt like home. Lake Area Tech stood out to me in my college searching because of the caring staff, the experience that the faculty had, and the hands-on learning approach. I went on to graduate from the cosmetology program in 2015 with my first degree. Much like all of you are about to experience, that first degree put me on the fast track to success. I get to stand here today as a motivational speaker, a traveling educator, and now a new business owner. And these are only a few of the things Lake Area Tech has helped me to achieve. We may think that the best days of college were the last 730 days, but let me tell you, the best is yet to come. Today, you're not only a graduate of the #1 two-year college in the nation, but soon to become a member of the #1 alumni association in the nation. Okay, that last part might have been a personal opinion. So what does that mean for you? It can mean a few different things. Maybe it means taking another bite of education like I did, when one degree just isn't enough. Maybe it means coming back and participating in our Alumni Association events, like Alumni Night Out or Boulder Memorial Golf Tournament. Fast forward, maybe it means bringing your children back to campus for a tour. And if we get lucky, maybe they will attend here too. And even today, I have the privilege of inviting everyone here to celebrate our Native American graduates today and attend the powwow directly after graduation at the Watertown Intermediate School. Whatever it may be, we look forward to staying connected with you graduates as you continue to live out your career success. It is now my honor to begin the induction process into the Lake Area Tech Alumni Association. I'll share the opportunities with you and ask for a uniform response at the end. 2019 Lake Area Technical Institute graduates, do you agree to become a part of the greatest alumni association? Do you look forward to staying connected and giving back to the school that built a foundation for your success? Do you look ahead with excitement and pride coming from the #1 two-year college in the nation? Most importantly, do you promise to read our alumni newsletters and let us know how you're doing from time to time? If so, please respond, "We do." Good, I'm glad. Lake Area Technical Institute faculty and staff, while you look back and cherish the time that you have spent with these students, I know you always look ahead, and you can't wait to hear from them and see them grow. Do you take pride in adding their names to the list of over 23,000 graduates whom we choose to call alumni? If so, respond, "We do." On behalf of the Lake Area Tech Alumni Association, I want to welcome you, class of 2019, as new members and congratulate you on your new degree. To commemorate this milestone, we have gifted you with a keychain as you walked across the stage today. This signifies our commitment to you remaining connected for years to come. We hope that the last 2 years have been memorable and remind you that today marks just the beginning of a new journey as a forever Lake Area Tech alumni. Congratulations.
Just a reminder for the graduates and their families that the Lake Area Tech campus is open, and if you'd like to go across, there'll be refreshments in the cafeteria, but also the program areas are open if you'd like to go through them with your graduates. And also the powwow, as mentioned, will be at the intermediate school starting at 6 o'clock. So would the graduating class of 2019 please rise? At this time, your diplomas and degrees are officially conferred. Ladies and gentlemen, I proudly present to you the graduated class of 2019. Class of 2019, you are dismissed. Family, thank you for coming.